Hi there, my name is Lacey, and if you are struggling with drawings where the shading doesn't quite look realistic, you're not getting that sense of form that you want, and you don't know why, this is the video for you because I've got the top 3 reasons that I see that your shading is wrong, it's not looking round, and it's not looking realistic. So I have this sphere and it is looking relatively round, right? So I am going to make this into what I typically see happen with drawings. So the first thing is thinking that all light that you see is a direct light and that it should be treated equally. Mostly this happens here in a reflected light. So what's going to happen is we're going to have some light hitting this table and then it's bouncing into the underside of the sphere. And we see that and it looks really cool. And when we look at it, our eyes adjust and we want to make it really, really bright. So let's see what happens when I do that. Now, do you see how at first that was looking pretty interesting? Like as soon as you put some white down in the shadow, it's kind of exciting, but now that it's there, it just doesn't look quite right. What's happening is making this value here, that light, is telling the eye that it's facing the same direction as the top of the sphere and the same direction as this table because that value has been made equal. It's the same level of lightness as these other areas that are catching light. So that's making the form, instead of rolling underneath, it's making it kind of come up a little bit, which is beginning to flatten out the sphere. The second thing that I'm going to mention to you here of why your shading doesn't look realistic is the opposite. Noticing any shading that's on the light side and treating it like a shadow. I've noticed that most of the time people use the idea of shading and shadow interchangeably, and I think this is causing a lot of problems. Also, call me a snob, but I hate when people use the word shadowing for shading because shadowing is like when you follow someone around at their job, and shading is when you're using the pencil in order to make things darker in order to create roundness. And you might do shading in the light side over here, and you might do shading in the shadow. So we need to separate that idea of the shadow and the shading. Now, when we see some of this shading on the light side and it's a halftone, this happens a lot, especially in figure drawing, where there are undulations of muscles creating halftones and they begin to be treated like a shadow, is it makes things look like they're facing the wrong way. So I'm going to go ahead and make the halftone in here too dark, which is what I see people doing, and then we'll take a look at what that is doing to the form. Okay, so see, again, this isn't terrible, and especially at first it seemed fine, but now there's kind of like less structure to this sphere. It doesn't feel quite as solid. It feels kind of squishy, like it feels more like it's made out of fur or something like that, and you could kind of mush it, right? And that's because it's giving you the idea that this is turning before it's really turning. So we don't fully get the sense of the light and right where it ends. This is often something, right? I mentioned it during figure drawings that you have an undulation in a muscle, and instead of treating it like a halftone, you might treat it like a shadow and make it too dark. This also tends to make things look a little dirty, like instead of it being shading, it has a little bit of a smudge on it. It can make forms look squished. So if you're finding that your drawings, your faces, your vessels, whatever it is that you're drawing and trying to get form, that they look squishy and soft and they don't look structured, then you may be shading too much in the light side on your halftone. You might also be blending too much. So that is my third thing. When you over blend everything and you want to make everything smooth, it makes everything round and squishy. So I'm going to go to town blending this. We're going to see what it looks like in the end, and we're going to talk about how we can correct some of that as well. Okay, so there we go. We've got this sphere nice and blended, and generally, we really like how things look when they're blended. I call it like putting glitter on things. We just tend to like the texture of when things are blended, and a lot of times we don't like our own marks. And I have my own theories on why, have to be another video. But you know, blending everything to death gets rid of all that form, makes it super squishy. Even when we have some, you know, pretty good shading going on, it's just too squishy and blended. So how can we fix these things, right? It's pretty easy. You kind of go in reverse. So you want to make sure that your halftones are not too dark, right? So right here, this is where the halftone should be, right? We've got a halftone here, and then somewhere around here, we go into the shadow. And right now, that's not structured enough. It's too subtle. There's a violation of light logic happening where in this section where the reflected light is, that is lighter than this halftone section. And we need that to be reversed. We want the halftone to be lighter, the reflected light to be darker than anything within that halftone. And then we need some kind of clarity and non-blended area in the shadow, okay? So those are the three things that we're gonna do. Lighten up the halftone, darken the reflected light, find a core shadow in there. So let's go ahead and give that a shot. And there you have it. Once we get things back into check where there's more light in the halftone, showing that light is hitting that side, there's less light in the reflected light, showing that it is part of the shadow, and we have a clear core to that shadow showing where the light ends and the shadow begins. Now we have our form back. If you found this helpful, let me know in the comments below. And if you would like to learn more from me, check out the free challenge. I'll leave that link down there too. You can join a 5-day challenge with me and learn more about drawing wherever you're at. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.